Welcome to the Brief on Grief with Walter Sanderson. I am so excited to have you all tuned in for our very first episode. Let me just take a moment to just say that I am so thankful and appreciative for all you that are subscribing to my YouTube channel and to my podcast. And I plan on each week giving you an episode of information that will help you with your grief. On today, I just want to say that let me start by addressing some of the questions I may have had from some of the people. I want you to know, first and foremost, grief is the normal reaction to loss in our life, and that we all will grieve and have and experience it. Someone may be asking, are you talking specifically, Walter, about grieving the loss of a loved one or the death of someone? And I'm here to tell you that yes and no. Grief is not only linked to the death of a loved one or the loss of a loved one, but your grief can be linked to the loss of a job. Your grief can be linked to the loss of your reality, of the dreams you may have had. Some people even grieve while standing at the altar, had a wonderful wedding day, and then they grieve because they start to experience the loss of their singleness and what it looks like to be attached to somebody for the rest of their life. I want you to know that sometimes it's friendships for some people that's been asking. Yes, you can grieve losing your job. Think about somebody who's worked on the same job for 30 to 40 years and was terminated or let go. There is grief attached to the loss of that event that you were used to, which was your reality. Sometimes we grieve even in the midst of a divorce and breakups and relationships. We can even grieve retiring. Somebody may go, wow, that's strange, but no, it's really not. For 30 plus years of your life, you've been getting up at a certain time each day during the week, traveling to a specific location. And now, what does your life look like when you no longer have that? I'm looking here. Somebody is asking, yes, you could even grieve relocating from one part of the country to another part of the country. In other words, let me just say this. Your grief is not only linked to and not just linked to the loss of life by somebody. And each week, I want you to know, each episode, I will be sitting here sharing with you ways to deal with and talk about your grief. So let me just get into it for our first episode and ask somebody right now. And you can submit your comments on my page or even email the comments and we'll deal with them each week. But what are you grieving? Somebody right now, what are you grieving? Who are you grieving? Do you even know if you are grieving? That's why even people who have a faith and they have a spiritual relationship, they too grieve, because your grieving is always tied to your departure from a thing or that thing from you. So I need you to know right now, how do you know you're grieving? Somebody asks the question. I'm so glad that they submitted that. Thank you. How do you know you're grieving? Well, I'm here to tell you grief manifests its way and in your life in many forms and variations. For somebody, your grief can be found in anger. Somebody may now naturally be angry all the time. For somebody, your grief is shown and found and manifested in your confusion. Maybe in the situation you're dealing with. Maybe this point of your life, you never thought you would be here. Sometimes your grief is manifested not just psychologically, but somatically, simply meaning even in your physical body. You have aches and pain, arthritis, different things that affect your immune system is the way grief manifested in your life. And for somebody, grief has a way of manifesting itself in your life because you lose a sense of who you are. You lose a sense of self-awareness. You no longer experience life as you once did, and things have changed. And so sometimes it's the loss of what my reality was. And I'm here to tell somebody too, I want you to always know when you want to help somebody with their grief, it's okay to just simply be there and be supportive, but never compare your grief to somebody else. Yes, I know we think that the right thing to say is, well, I know what you're going through. You never know what somebody's going through, and you never understand anybody's grief except for your own. You could have lost your mother. Somebody you know could have lost theirs. but it is so layered with grief because your relationship with your mother was one thing compared to somebody else's. Even siblings grieve differently because of the relationship that they have. A mother and a daughter's relationship is different from a mother and a son's, and depending on how that relationship developed over the years will have an impact in what that grief looked like and what that grief may be that they're experiencing. So I'm here to tell you, in dealing with grief, we all experience grief on different levels and different stages. And so nobody grieves the same. I also want you to know each week, be mindful as we talk about different aspects of grief, that grief is something that cannot be rushed. Grief is not something that has a timetable on it. Don't set unrealistic or put the burden on yourself of trying to grieve something or someone you love in 6 months to try to get over it. You grieve at your own pace and you grieve in your own time. And one thing I want you to all know, in grieving, you must have patience not only with yourself, but with those around you. And so I want you to know, I want you to please continue to support, subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Brief on Grief with Walter Sanderson. Please subscribe to my podcast, The Brief on Grief podcast, which is on Spotify and iHeart. And for anybody who may need more in depth grief counseling, please feel free to send all of your inquiries to the Brief on Grief podcast at gmail.com. That is the Brief on Grief podcast at gmail.com. And I will look at your inquiries and we can set up a free consultation. I want to say again, thank you for tuning in. And remember, we all are grieving something. We all will experience grief at some point in our life. And you may know somebody right now that's grieving, and that somebody may be you. Looking forward to seeing you on our next episode, The Brief on Grief with Walter Sanderson. Have a wonderful evening.